When you hear the word berserker, you probably imagine a Nordic guy from the Middle Ages with muscles larger than modern steroid championship participants. You also imagine warriors high on suspicious plant juices tearing through Englishmen who are scared shitless. So let me ask you this. Why is that when I search for berserker builds online, I only find magic or skill-based builds? For sure someone would have already made a melee build by now. Every passive of the berserker just asks for it. Surely there's at least one build online like this, right? Right? Yes, there is. Prepare yourselves, because you are about to see what it's like to play Torchlight the single worst way possible. Before we make our berserker, we need a level 100 character to help us with the grind process. My earth-shattering Emberquake engineer build will do. Why, you may ask? Well, punching enemies until they are dead is quite difficult when said enemies are tanky and you deal no damage on top of having a pitiful survivability. Yeah, it's going to be a rough one. You will die a couple times. If you want your life to be a bit less miserable, get the True North set, because it gives you 30% lifesteal on your basic attacks. And get the Iron Orb Shockers too, because these are fantastic weapons for the early game. You will be stuck with this setup until you are around level 50-ish, when you will have the stats to equip the Harbinger necklace and the rings. This is when your other character comes in the picture. It can enchant your necklace to give you around plus 200 dexterity, and your rings to give you around plus 200 strength each. This way you will be able to equip the rest of the Harbinger / Drake Talon set. From that point you will play on easy mode basically. Now let's talk about your skills. You start with Eviscerate. As soon as you can meet the nearest respec NPC, just get rid of it. Now, since you are a Brainless berserker, you don't have to think about which passive you want and for what purpose. You just get all 9 of them. But this might take a slight bit of thinking. You have to decide which skill not to max out, since you can only max out 8 of them. It really just comes down to your personal preference in which skill you think will benefit you the least. For my version, I decided to put the least amount of points in Rage Retaliation, which, as it turns out, was a fucking apocalyptic mistake. When you have 2500 strength and deal 310,000 damage, Rage Retaliation becomes practically unfair to your enemies. It takes your damage, as it just quite literally is, and at level 15 it multiplies it by 1.6. That's how much damage your enemies do to themselves just by daring to touch you. Here's a sped up clip of me killing the Netherlord on NG2 without attacking. So, Cold Steel Mastery and Rage Retaliation are an absolute necessity. So is Executioner, despite you using a two-handed weapon in this version of the build, but more on that later. Really, what I found to be the least useful skill is Shatterstorm. I just don't think you get too many benefits from it being maxed out. Another contender for the least useful skill is Red Wolf, but the problem is that I can't really say for certain how much damage it actually does. It's really hard to observe when it does damage, which is why it's here as a potential weakest passive. I really just can't say how effective it actually is. In addition to these, you get scrolls you see here. Dervish will increase your attack rate, and the others are there to help you deal damage and get more health out of potions. So, you have suffered through the game with under-leveled gear. Now, you are level 46, and you have this test to equip the Harbinger rings and the necklace. And as discussed earlier, if these are enchanted, you will be able to get the rest of the Harbinger/Drake Talon set too. Your next goal now is to get 295 base dexterity, so your armor can stay on. Once you have that, you can now switch to your permanent necklace, which of course gives you around plus 200 strength. And also, when you have 295 base dexterity, from that point on you can now invest everything in strength. Now, you can do things two ways. You either enchant everything with the other character you have beforehand, or you enchant with your berserker as you progress. Or a combination of both can work too, I guess. If you are like me and you have basically infinite amount of time due to a knee injury that prevents you from going to work, you can get all your equipment to be enchanted to around plus 200 strength. If you are a true lifeless sweat lord, you can visit your best friend Carcosi the Grandmaster Scammer and get a 4th enchantment on your gears, which are not worth the money. I'm just saying that you could do that. This is how I achieved over 2500 strength, and if you want to know how I enchant using a game crashing exploit, I have talked about it in my Earth-Shattering Emberquake engineer build video. So, this is going to be your armor setup. 2 rings with skulls of Limoani, a necklace with a skull of Limoani and any other gem you prefer, the Drake Talon helm with 2 skulls of Limoani, 2 other Drake Talon items of your choice with 2 Limoanis each, the other 4 Drake Talon items with 2 Riechlius each, then finally your main weapon will be the Final Embrace. Set it up like this. You will have an attack rate around 1.0 something seconds base, and every attack from you will hit with the power of 10,000 freight trains. But wait, there's more. Originally, this build was supposed to use 2 Cerulean Nightmares and an Orloc's Hand with 5 Riechlius. This setup would theoretically deal more damage overall while having more survivability, so why didn't I go with this Cerulean Nightmare setup? Reason 1. Reason 2, I don't have those. I do have the Hand of Orlok, but for the Great Hammer version of this build, that extra 25% crit rate is more important than getting a couple thousand more health. I can make up for the missing crit rate with gems in the Cerulean variant, but that is just not worth doing in the Great Hammer variant. So, how effective is the Brainless berserker build? Against normal enemies, you are basically both an unstoppable force and an immovable object at the same time. You've been seeing a Tarok's Tomb run in the background. I did end up dying to the very last boss, but if the stars align and you consistently roll 6s with your hypothetical dice, you could beat Tarok's Tomb. But let's be realistic here. If you need percentage chances upon percentage chances and a few prayers to God, can you really beat Tarok's Tomb? I don't think so. But regardless, until the very last boss rush, you have an extraordinarily easy time beating the dungeon. So I would say it's a decent enough build. But remember what I said in the intro of this video, this is literally the objectively worst way possible to play the game. Get my Earth-Shattering Emberquake engineer build instead. It can actually complete Tarok's Tomb with next to no effort requirements. So yes, this would be the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. See you next time, whenever that might be.